Everybody, welcome to Now That's Love, your favorite mother daughter duo, where you get to learn how to.
Know yourself, yourself, and be yourself.
Because the greatest love story of all time that you're ever going to tell is the one that you have within by yourself. So,
Yeah. And it's amazing as you evolve each day into the version of you that you just know is your truth. So, today we're going to talk about something that was a shift in both mine and Ashlyn's life of the self love. And there's a lot of self love stuff out there, and people are wondering, how do I know how to do the self love? Because a lot of it was sold to us with marketing of, you need to buy this cream, you need to have this bath, salts in your bath, and that's self love. And those are ways to appreciate yourself. But really, one of the ways that we've talked about before is being self aware of the auto thoughts that are coming into your mind and reprogramming, like just saying, no, that's not my truth, or having compassion. That was a silly thought. That's not my truth anymore. Like, I can't believe I ever thought that. So it's the critical mind that's popping in, and you want to be aware of that so that you can start building the internal muscle in your mind that is showing up for you, accepting and loving you, even on the crazy stuff, the little stuff that pops in. You're like, wow, that was harsh or whatever. But one of the ways is, if you're a mother or a father and you have a child, you know that you would not speak to them that way, or hopefully you would not speak to them the way that you're speaking to yourself. That's one way. If you don't have children, another way to do it is, do you have an animal? You're not going to sit down and be like, oh, your dog, really? You're so stupid.
especially your
And
precious little baby dog.
yeah, they're so unconditional. They're great examples to us. And if you don't, another level, if you don't have children or an animal, think of maybe when you were a child, you had a little snuggly bear, and you didn't take that bear and go, you're such an idiot, you're not enough, and you never get things right. It's hopeless. It's hopeless to even be you. So taking it to those different levels. And then for today, I want to express my side of one of the shifting factors that was so amazing when I was out of those relationships, and I honestly didn't have the confidence to feel like I could go out in the world, even though I was still coaching and doing my very best. I could give them that. But as far as me, when I was by myself, I got really aggressive in shifting my mindset. And the way that I learned was Louise Hay, and she'd gone through a very dark childhood and a lot of different relationships that she just felt worthless. And she's this beautiful, wonderful grandma lady now. And well, she actually just passed away, but she impacted this world of the mirror work and self-love. And her message one morning I received was, stand in the mirror. And this was also part of, I want to say, my holistic health. And I'd been using it with my clients so many times. So then it connected. Janae, you know this. So I had done a couple of practice times before this with going in front of the mirror and saying, I love you. Janae, I love you, Janae. And you're supposed to sit there for, at least, they say in my coaching, I'd have people do it for 5 to 10 minutes. And amazing that everybody breaks down. And we just don't do this enough for ourselves. And so for me, I just went right in front of the mirror. I'm like, I know this, and I know I need to do this. To see and witness how dark my eyes were, and how sad and the depression and where I was, just to witness it, and to cry, to literally be walking the action steps I'd taken so many clients through and not feel it. I mean, I just, at the time, I'm like, well, maybe I need to take it down a level and say, I like you. Janae, I like you. I like what you're doing for me. But with that, because I was so adamant about it, anytime I even walked like the rearview mirror in my car or at the gym or anywhere I was at that I saw a mirror, I'd say, I like you a little bit more today, Janae. I
Yeah.
like you a little bit more today. And it just started progressing in such a rapid speed that I'd be walking down the steps or on my way to my car. I'm like, I do love you a little bit more today. And this smile started happening. I'm like, actually, I do. And it started kind of becoming so lighthearted, and I started really feeling it and believing it. And that then other actions were coming forward for me to be able to have more confidence and to really show up and start loving myself. And so if thoughts came into my head that were on autopilot, that were negative, I'd say, yeah, I love you. And I acknowledge that this or that, or I appreciate this about you. And that's part of mine and Ashlyn's program that we do with self healing and also with the self love, self awareness, and the just knowing yourself. That's, we get down to get really like not having other people dictate who we are and going within and really knowing yourself and loving yourself. And that's what has just transformed our lives. But we wanted to share that part of just the shift for me that started to happen was part of my holistic program that ding, 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 Louise Hay had just come in, and I sat there and I was like adamant that it was becoming one of my lifestyle practices. And I still do it to this day, every single day. It's just an autopilot thing. So I'm going to turn the time over to Ashlyn for her shifting.
Well, I was just gonna say too that, like, I have talked to certain people sometimes about self love, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like they'll be like in a toxic relationship where they keep messaging that ex, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she really needs to like learn how to deeply just love herself so she doesn't feel codependent on their relationship. And my friend would tell me, "Oh no, she does love herself. She does her love herself. She gets her nails done. She takes bubble baths. She goes on walks." And I'm just like, that is part of self-care, but I think a lot of
Yeah.
times people have mixed up self-care with self-love, because self-care is so important. I mean, especially coming from a mom, like we know how important it is to have self-care, but if you don't have self-love, I think the main thing is, if you can't go and sit at a coffee restaurant or just like a restaurant or any place by yourself, even just going for a walk by yourself, you need to start analyzing like the level of self-love you have. If you always feel like you need to be around somebody to cover up the fact that you have to be alone with yourself, I think that's when you need to step back and be like, okay, I need to observe this. Why can't I handle being alone with myself? And
Yeah.
then you can start growing into who you are and understanding yourself, because understanding yourself, you start to gain more self-love for yourself. You gain compassion with understanding of like, oh, okay, sometimes I do that little silly stuff, because I think sometimes people think self-love is just, I'm so beautiful, I'm so amazing, I'm so gorgeous, which yeah, you should be saying that to yourself every day. But there's also so many things of just having compassion with yourself on little things that you do, or just understanding the whole realm of who you are. You're so different. And I was noticing this with just like thinking about some of my friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really love this friend because of this, and I really love this friend because of this. We're all unique and different, and we all contribute into this world so beautifully. You have your own unique gifts. So own that shit. Love it. Like, love you. But I really
Right.
transitioned into my self love journey. Um, I think in the beginning of high school, after I left my first unhealthy relationship, I I guess I would like to say first, I thought I really loved myself, but I loved a lot of what people were pouring into me. Um, if you feel like you can't love yourself without people's acknowledgement or people's praise of your body, of your how smart you are, or oh my gosh, this and this and this, and you're not telling yourself that, then all of a sudden those people, if they disappear off the face of the earth, you feel like you are nothing. You don't have any belief within yourself. You were just like, feed my ego, make me feel better about myself. Tell me you love me, because I don't know if I love myself quite yet. But I was having that a lot in high school where I was like, yeah, I love myself. But then I felt like whenever I started getting out of high school, you kind of stop hanging around certain people or being around a certain group. And once I left high school, I was like, wow. Like, and I moved to San Antonio, so I didn't know anybody. So I was completely on my own, just filling my own self, my own cup up. And I really realized, wow, I based everything I was, my worth, my love, off the people around me, of my relationships, off of just my mom and I's relationship. I was like, she loves me, so I love me. But then I had to have a full realization of sitting alone. That's why I said go to a coffee shop, sit alone, and just really be in your thoughts, or even just stepping outside and just analyzing, like, oh my goodness, like, am I okay within my thoughts? Do I love who I am when I'm not around other people? Because if you can't learn to be in love with yourself when you're alone, oh my gosh, you're going to be around other people, and it's going to be like, you're going to leave that and you're going to be like, I don't even know who I am. I hate myself around those people because, or they told me that I'm this, so I'm going to believe it. And you
Right.
just, it's not, whenever you know who you are and love yourself, you're not going to let that stuff feed into you. So I decided after high school to really, and then I left that second relationship, and I was like, wow, like I don't have any man telling me that I'm beautiful constantly, like I'm not every morning, hey, good morning, beautiful. So I had to start doing things that made me feel beautiful within. And that didn't mean going and getting my nails done. It really meant like meditating with myself. I'd go and lay out by the pool and read a book that I really loved, like getting to know myself. What do I like? Like, can you sit
Okay.
down right now and name 5 things that you like? And at that time, I couldn't, because everything I liked, it was based off of what they liked. I was like, oh yeah, I love basketball. Did I really like watching basketball? No. I liked it because he liked watching basketball. Did I like going and doing this? No. And it's okay to like compromise with your partner and do certain things with them, because that's just part of like the compromise in a relationship, as long as it's a healthy compromise that you're not sacrificing your own worth for. But I realized, oh my gosh, I love reading. Like, I stopped reading once I hopped into that relationship. Oh my gosh, I love swimming. I haven't gone to the pool since like for like 2 years with him, and all these little things. So you start to, I think once you finally disconnect from certain people, I feel like that's why some relationships fail, friendships fail. It has you go back into your own self. And especially even just death, like whenever I had my friend pass away, I realized that that's whenever I fully detach from everyone around
Detachment.
me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I detached and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm detaching from everyone around me.
Become a
But I
hermit.
realized that it was kind of healthy for me to detach for a while,
Yeah.
to
Find yourself.
really just be alone. Like I had my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I had my mom, but like at the same time I really had to be without any friends. I was just focusing on myself and becoming a mom. I was a whole brand new person. We've talked about in our coffee episode, we're probably going to post that with this, but everyone's their own cup of tea, but your tea can change. Like my hot cocoa ended up having a little cinnamon to it because I had a little spice added into it because of Malay. I had to protect him and myself once he was coming into this world. So your drink can change. And I was realizing that my drink was changing. And I was like, stop, I don't want my drink to change. I don't want my world to change. And you start realizing that you start to love those things that you added or maybe even took away from your drink that maybe you didn't need anymore. Maybe you no longer needed to necessarily have to have your guard up. Maybe you didn't have to have the lid on your coffee cup anymore. You could finally take the lid off your coffee cup, of your Starbucks cup or whatever. But that's whenever I fully, really, in short terms, really through those stages of my life of relationships and exiting relationships, you start to love yourself more, I would say. You understand yourself more because I feel like at least most of us, I would hope that if you're out of a relationship right now or in a relationship that you're thinking about leaving, if you don't know who you are, I would start focusing on that.
Right.
And then a lot of times you grow with each relationship. It's like you don't go and look back at your ex and you're like, I want somebody exactly like that person, because you probably don't. And that's how we grow.
Yeah, that's where it starts, is getting to really know what you like, what you love, what you're passionate about. And so often we tap into so many distractions, even become workaholics to not
Mm,
learn to
both been
understand
there.
ourselves. Yeah, we've both been there. And then you get asked, what are your passions, or what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? And you're sitting there thinking, well, actually, I don't have time. And that's
Mm,
not a quality of life, and it's not self love. It's not um, getting at the end of the day feeling like you really truly have taken care of yourself. And so it does begin, self love does begin, and like Ashlyn said, this kind of a full circle of starting to understand what you do. Like, you can just journal down, just brain dump it. Okay, when I was a child or when I was a teenager, I loved riding bikes, or I loved swimming, I loved being out in nature, I loved going to the library and reading books.
mm.
Um, there's going to be, everybody's going to be different. Those are
What
just
makes
some
you
of
feel
mine.
alive in
Yeah, what makes you
yourself?
feel alive, and that
Your
when you lay down
heart's
in
just
bed, you're,
ah.
yes, it can be music, it can be dancing, and then bring that back in if it's been avoided in your life, and that starts to nurture you in a way that the things that aren't really meant or should be still in your life start to be taken out naturally, and you're replacing it with things that you love, and you're also showing your love for yourself. Like, I know myself. That's what you say. Like, I know myself, and I'm loving myself. And every day is just a stepping stone day. It's not trying to get to some destination of, wow, I'm the most empowered, self love person. I love myself so much, because it is a roller coaster. But the dips are when you can come in and like just love on yourself with compassion. Know that we have the dark and the light. It's okay to have moments where you're like so negative or whatever. And you're
It
like, well, I'm
happens.
working through this. I don't know where this came from. And we're going to talk about that in our next episode about self-awareness and how to really truly step out of feeling like, oh, these people are toxic, or because they're the reflection and stuff, and they'll be very helpful with you with what came down to me as a like a little meditation message that changed my life there too. But today was just a shifting point of the mirror work and getting to know yourself. Like Ashlyn had said, just start really sitting down and writing. And I've written in my journals certain things, and then thinking that this is what I like, but why? Why did I like them? Like she said about basketball. Why did I like them? I like certain things because other people like said
Feel
I'm
included.
amazing at it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you're such an amazing cook. And do I like really cooking? Well, I went and discovered I do. I do like cooking, but at first it was such an appreciation, acknowledgement growing up that I'd won awards with my muffins at the state fair, the county fair. And
Mm.
I was acknowledged by my dad and my brothers of being just such an amazing cook. And then it was like acknowledgement, right? And appreciation. Wow, I do love to cook. This is amazing. But to step back and think, now being single and I'm by myself, I do enjoy cooking and just the kind of the peacefulness. Ashley and I've talked about the
Mm.
overcooking,
We
the
overcook
checkouts. I
compulsively.
need a
That's me.
therapy for a whole bunch of cookies. But I've added several new passions in, and I absolutely loved stepping out into nature. And if I feel a little off, a lot of times I will immediately, if I have the opportunity, go and step outside, be near a tree and just take some breaths, or I will just go on a hike.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have the muscle, the, there's neuroplasticity in your brain that's like a roadmap, and it's wired a certain way. And we can work that by overriding it and doing like having the spiritual muscle to go in there and say, that's not my roadmap anymore. I don't want that anymore. And it's neuroplasticity, but it comes in with awareness and meditation that you're going in and changing that up. And it's miraculous. And we'll talk more about that at
Yeah.
some point too. But
And you can
that's the game
also like
changer.
test, like if you're not sure, test it out. Like figure out who you are by, I mean, there's so many things I realized with completing getting my master's finished is that like join things in your community. There's like story time. You can do story time with your kids, or there's book clubs you can join at your library, or there's like so many different clubs you can join. There's like environmental clubs that you can join with people that love Earth, and
Right.
or go to an animal shelter and you'll find a bunch of people that love animals. I mean, there's just whatever you love to do, go there. Like
Right.
if you love to eat, go to a restaurant. Go to your favorite restaurant. Start talking to
Become a
people.
foodie.
Yeah, be a food blogger. Just kidding. But there's so many things that like if you love to do it or you're like unsure, like maybe I don't like doing this, test it out. Go to many
Right.
things. I mean, I personally think that no matter what, you're going to gain an experience out of it. Like my mom and I went to an animal shelter. And at first, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I had to do it for an assignment, and I was like, "I don't want to have to go there. I don't want to do this. This is wasting part of my Saturday." And to also think about it, I was also a little sick during that time with morning sickness, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to do this." And I left practically in tears. I'm like, "Mom,
Mm,
next time you're coming with me." And she joins me the next time, and it's usually a rewarding experience. You either get to help others around you, get to talk to others around you, get to learn other people's experiences. I
mm.
feel like a lot of us are so can be so trapped within ourselves that we think that we're so in our heads, and then you step out into the real world and you're like, oh, like
Wow. Right. Going to the hospitals, the children's
Mhm.
centers, and the nursing homes are one of my favorite places. Those people are, a lot of them are put there and they do not have anybody coming to
Yeah.
visit. Maybe their children live far away and they're so welcoming and loving. And there's just always places you can go that speak to your heart. And, you think that you're doing a service, but really it's so
Mhm.
wonderful in your own heart. It fills your
Yeah.
cup tenfold. And but doing it because you want to do it, not out of active guilt or I should do this as a sacrificial like martyr. You do it. That's part
To
of the
think that you're going to get some
codependency.
amazing karma back. Just do it
Right.
because you want to do it. That
Yeah.
you know that along the way you're gonna figure out little pieces of yourself. I even just hanging around certain groups, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that like I necessarily like loved helping out with the environment. Like it was just like so silly to even say that, but I was like, oh, this is actually really like rewarding hanging around with other naturalist people. Let's go and strip off our clothes and go to a nude beach. No, I'm kidding. But it was like it was just fun to be around other people that like that are good people, because if you're going around certain places like that, you know you're hanging around people that have true caring hearts that want the best for
Right. Beautiful
humanity.
energy.
Yeah.
Well, in another place I was told to go when I was trying to figure out where I kind of could find my vibing people or my people that I'd want to have energy is at the Meetup app, the Meetup
I haven't
app.
heard
And
about
so you
that.
can go on there and do meditation groups, or there's the nature groups. And you just get to know people that have, you create your own little baby community of just wonderful people. If you like to do dance, there's dance groups, there's yoga groups. There are so many people that want to just go out to find fun
Yeah.
restaurant groups too. So you're not doing it by yourself necessarily. You get to be around people that are
Or
foodies or
create
whatever.
groups within your own community. Like
Yeah,
there was
like we're
like
doing.
all my girlies, I love my girlies so much to death. And all of them came to me and they're like, Ashlyn, I don't have a lot of girlfriends. I'm like, why don't we set up a monthly thing where all of us girls get together and we just have fun? No boys, a lot of us are married or in relationships or, single and party, we're having fun in our single lives. But um, we decided that I was gonna open up my house every month, and then now a bunch of girls are like, I want it over at my house. I want it at my house. So now we're doing all these fun things. We used to just do board games. Now we're like painting pots and we're playing bingo, karaoke, all these fun things that we're doing now. And it's become the highlight of my month. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever I started doing that, I was like, okay, mom, let's open up our community too. Like, let's show people the light of join our community and subscribe and follow and share because so many, like I mentioned, so many people are lonely out there, and we need a community.
Mm.
And teaching yourself to love really loving yourself. I mentioned in the very beginning, it's the greatest love story that you're ever going to have. You have it from day one. I mean, obviously, you don't like remember when you're 1 day old, but from day one until you die, it's with
Right.
yourself. Even if like you think your greatest love story is with your partner right now or your best friend, I'm not trying to be doomsday, but sooner or later, one of y'all are gonna die. It's true. It's like it's gonna happen, and you're either gonna have to be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm all by myself," or they're gonna have to realize that they're all by themselves in a in a way. But if you learn to love yourself, you're really never alone. You're just
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I talk to myself, and it's like I'm my best friend. And whenever you are your best friend, oh, honey, you're never going to let anyone ever treat you less than what you would treat yourself. If you're taking something right now, I guarantee that there's part of you that believes it internally. There's something in you right now that if someone's saying something mean to you, and you're trying to make that part of your identity, you're making it part of who you are. If someone was to tell you right now that you are stupid or not pretty or that you can't do this or that, would you believe them? Do you have that full understanding, like we said, of yourself and how much you love yourself to that point where you're not going to let outside things affect you? And that's what, or even just death or relationships ending. It's like, I know, I feel like a lot of people have mentioned that in relationships, we get encapsulated with who they are. We start molding into who they are to kind of please them. Like, okay, I guess I'll start doing this on the weekends. And slowly but surely, you turn out and you're like, oh my gosh, you leave that relationship. And it's kind of scary because you don't even know necessarily who you are because you're in that dark place of, I don't know who I am without them.
That's
And
why that's why I think when you get out of those kind of relationships, when
take
you were
time to yourself.
codependent, you had become so much of their identity
Hmm.
out of fear of you would actually try to say that you want to do certain things, but things happen. But that said, that that's one of the hardest parts of when you get out of a relationship. It's not normally supposed to be like that when you get out of a relationship, but you feel like it's a dark night of soul out of certain type of relationships because you lost
Yes.
yourself in it. You and the critical mind, if you allow it, is still beating you up. And that's the shifting, one of the biggest shifters you have to do is being aware of your thoughts and the critical mind. It's a
And we
work in
repeat
progress.
Yes, and we repeat this saying. I repeat it all the time to myself after I leave groups where I'm, oh my gosh, start overanalyzing because I feel like all of us have overanalyzed or critiqued ourselves, be a perfectionist in some way, somehow at little things, whether it's your job, with your relationships, just every little aspect of your life. Sometimes you can start critiquing and you're like, ah. But after I leave groups with friends, before I would go like on an entire week like tantrum in my head. This was like maybe 5 years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, did I say this? Did I do this? Did I have this happen?
Mm-hmm.
But then now I reel myself in. And that's what we were saying. Like, it's not a destination. It's just constantly like saying that you are not your thoughts. Like, I go into my brain and I'm just like, I'll sometimes drive. I don't close my eyes, but I'll be driving back home. And I'm like, Ashlyn, you love yourself. You have the best intentions. You're an amazing friend. It's like start telling yourself like these
Right.
things. You start believing it. And if you really truly have pure intentions with everything in your life and compassion for everything around you and you're like you truly know you never meant to hurt anybody, and if someone has come to you and says, "Hey, that hurts." Like you're an open person where you're like, "Okay, let me see how I have hurt you in that way." Then I honestly can say that can say those things to myself. I all my friends know I have open communication. Setting up those boundaries in the beginning of our relationships have made worlds of wonders of like, hey, let me know whenever I hurt your feelings, because I think especially with girls, sometimes we can just say things like blah blah, and then it's like, ooh, that was a little sting, and you didn't know that, but like we form that, or just even forming boundaries of how much we can communicate, because they know I'm a mom, I'm in school, I'm doing so many things, I'm creating this community with y'all, and I'm busy, and they understand that and respect it. It's not, it's, and then we still have such great relationships. So I think that's also another part that will add on to self loving yourself and self love, is having those boundaries, because once you form those boundaries with those people in your life, they understand that you respect and love yourself, and whenever they can see that from you, they're going to your good friends are going to reciprocate that back to you and be like, oh, okay, thank you for letting me know those things. I respect that. Hey, these are my boundaries, and you can respect that. And it's like, I
Right.
think people have over analyzed boundaries to the point where they're like, you can't do this, you can't say that, and it's like, oh my gosh, people,
That's
calm
just
down on the
control.
boundaries. Calm
Right.
down on the boundaries. It doesn't mean to block everybody in the world. It means to communicate your
Right.
boundaries, and if they don't
Connection.
respect those boundaries and constantly cross them or try to cross them after you have told them please don't, that is not okay with me, then you communicate to them like, I can't, where do you want to see this going from here? And if they can't respect that even further of seeing that, then, I mean, at that point, I think that's when you call the relationship done. But boundaries and social media has gotten far past the point of like, oh, they said this to me, boundaries, block. It's like, no, at that point, you're just being avoidant.
Yeah, the social ineptness that comes with that. One of the things with self love is creating boundaries actually for yourself with, let's say, you find, for me, electronic devices and TV.
I love that.
I want my spiritual fitness to be just as important. So I, if you see yourself being triggered, or just even the word would be feeling off, not enough, and you're just trying to do from the beginning of just really building your self love, then
Mm-hmm.
take care of yourself and don't feel like you need to be on social media. Take down the app, or maybe say, I'm going to start with little steps. I'm not going to
Do
be,
not disturb.
yeah, I've decided I'm not going to be on social media or do, anything like that from Friday to sundown to Saturday. Just start small, um, because that can be another thing for Ashlyn. I do quite a bit of it, actually. I do quite a bit of completely leaving my phone alone. I have, with my 40-day resurrection challenge that I do for myself, I've been off of TV, not had any TV for 3 weeks, going on 4.
Oh yeah, TV could be such a negative place to put your
Yeah,
mind.
it's, if you have your brain wired in a certain way for certain stories that are subconsciously done, and you're going to take action because 95% is subconscious. And so if you don't go in and rewire that subconscious programming, rewrite it, then you wonder why am I, after 2 weeks of being so determined, I'm back to square one again. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just subconscious. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's taking the time for spiritual fitness and knowing how. And Ashley and I are going to be showing that in future videos. It's just been game changing, just completely changed my life. I wish I would have had this knowledge years ago, but it's okay, because now I'm a power monger of just making sure I'm getting all that stuff taken care of. But it's not, it's just a journey. It's magical in many ways, of feeling empowered that you are actually the master of your ship. I'm not sitting here going, okay, I'm just going to watch TV and hope for the best. If I know it's a thing for
Yes.
me,
Take
I'm off of
control.
it. I'm taking my control of my life, not worried about other people's lives. I can't change other people's lives or try to manipulate or control them. It's like absolutely out of, I don't have the energy for that. So I'm to put all that energy back in to empower myself so I can show up and be the best friend, the best mom that I can be in that moment. The loving daughter, the daughter that wants to reach out, because I'm feeding my spirit, my soul, my mind, and my body through that. And that's just a big part of self-love. If also doing, like, what are my boundaries, that, what are the things that have been hurting me? Maybe it's going out to the bars. Maybe it's going and just checking out with too much work at night. You're just going into, what are your boundaries? Okay, well, at 7 p.m., no more. Like, I don't care what
Yeah.
emails
Your
come in.
non-negotiables.
It's non-negotiables. It's taking care of you. And I promise that the world's not going to fall apart by you not going out and being that person that's, you're not, if you lose your job and it's because you're not doing the 15-hour days like you were doing, then you need another job's going to come into your life and empower you and be amazing. But the checkout, that was my thing in the very beginning, was just really, really, really working. Like if I just having space, I'm like, well, I can do this now. I can do this now. At the very beginning, when you're quiet with your mind, you might come in and you rescue yourself, that little girl self, or that you're talking to your child, your teddy bear, your dog, and you would never, like we said in the beginning, do that to them. And so don't ever do it to yourself. And when you witness it, it's just autopilot, baby. It's
It
just
is. It
autopilot.
just
It's not you.
you automatically do it, and within 2 minutes, it's like 5 minutes max. It's like you're clear. And
Yeah.
if you still are rethinking it, that means that you need to figure out why that is triggering you. Why is this eating me alive right now? Is it something from my past? Is it something that I need to talk to them about? That it's not okay that they said that, or
Take action.
vice versa. I think mirror work, like we mentioned, is obviously, I feel like, one of the key things to do, because when you can talk to yourself in the mirror, you can see like your face. That's whenever I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, it's so funny because I know this is a little bit tiny bit off topic, but like, I think we've all done it, and it's kind of funny. Where have you ever looked in the mirror while you were crying, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never crying in public." But like, if you can say nice things to yourself, like, you don't, if you can't say mean things to the mirror, so if you can't say it to the mirror, don't be saying it up here.
Right. Right. Just checking in each day with self-awareness, starting there. And that's where you start to know yourself, and also stop the whole criticism and moving on into the self-love and self-worth. This is just the beginning of Ash and I
Yes.
tapping into this. We absolutely are so excited about this community and the
Yes.
evolution of it, and the
And
evolution of all of us on here.
we had in the first couple episodes, I felt like we even talked about this because we self-reflect ourselves every day, and we're like, oh my gosh, I hope that our community doesn't think we're just trauma dumping. What we really wanted y'all to understand is our background story of, like, we have been to that dark night of the mind or slash soul, and we wanted to have y'all understand we've been there. But I promise that we are not like constant tears. um, some days are like that, but I think we also wanted to show that it's real. Like, these emotions are real, and it's okay to feel it. Don't be hard on yourself about those moments. And it always sounds so cheesy, but the reason why you're going through something is because it's meant to be. And I
Right.
sometimes have always fought that saying, and then life happens. It's supposed to be. And I know right now you're probably like, oh my gosh, oh, this woman, but then in 2 years you might come back to comment, be like, you were right. Everything added up. It makes sense now.
Well,
But
act as if
we
you've chosen life. Like, act as
yeah.
every single thing you're doing, you're choosing and you're procreating with the divine. So not everything is going to be fluffy and happy and all that. We're meant to go through things that make us feel beyond off or deep suffering.
Elevate.
And then if you're taking action, you end up just elevating. It's like the game of life. You're going up another notch. Donkey Kong, blah, 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 but or maybe some people remember Frogger going up the level like that, depending on your age and you. But you're elevating and expanding, and it's a beautiful thing. But literally on a weekly basis, you need to know that, like, I'll have an off moment or two or three, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's still subconsciously part of my belief system, and I can walk through it. The more you're doing, the more awareness you are. You're like, it's very quick. It's very quick. It's not, oh my goodness, that took me out for 5 weeks. It's just very quick. And
Yeah, we
the
recognize
next
that.
episode, we'll talk about something I kind of just walked through that I was just like, wow, I thought I was really good with this, but I saw it returning back on me, and I was eating that plate, humble pie, because I
We
it,
sometimes eat a
yeah,
lot of
and it,
pie.
right. And when I was meditating 2 days ago, I just had this whole thing of like, yeah, you had this beautiful epiphany moment back when you were coaching so many people over at another place. Exactly, all people walking up to me and talking to me. I had a certain thing happen, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. So it will. I know it will help y'all in
Mhm.
being around people that are, having a lot going on in their lives,
Yes.
so that
And
you don't
thank
feel
y'all
like
so
you
much
can't.
for being like patient with us and growing with us. Like we're learning too. Like each day we're learning with y'all, little things that we're doing, we'll reflect with each other and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we learned how to do this on with our recordings," or "Oh my gosh, we have to add this," or "Maybe we should start doing this." So we also love whenever you guys comment and let us know, what do you want us to talk about? What
What
do
are you
you
going
like about
through?
our podcast? And we always just love to hear from everyone in our community. We
Right.
love it.
Connection is where it's at. We really want to connect and create this community that you can come to, that you feel safe. You feel like you're learning how to, grow more in your self love, self worth, and knowing yourself, and just being able to be yourself, right? Authentically be yourself just in the moment.
Yeah.
Uh, no perfection. Good heavens.
Yeah, I know. It's so true. I think a lot of times with the in the spiritual world, it's like we just want to get to that destination. We want to start levitating. Like
Never come down.
let me just be with the heavens all the time, but we're in a human experience. And no
Right.
matter what, it's going to be just like I love it because I feel like God and the universe, the divine has created the earth to resemble so many beautiful things that we go through in our human experience. And just like our human experience, the mountains, we go up and down, and
Oh, you're
the
right.
seasons, we change with the seasons. And
Mm.
I think if you just observe nature around you, it's within you as well. You're just as beautiful as the nature
Oh,
around you.
that's beautiful, Ashlyn. I love that analogy. That
Thank
was
you. It's
heartfelt. I could feel it.
my heart's
You little
pounding for
angel.
y'all. I love you guys.
Much love. Have the
Yes.
best rest of your day, or walking into the evening. May you have beautiful dreams. Love from
Yes.
Ashlyn and I.
Now that's love,
Now
bitches. No,
that's
I'm kidding.
love.
I was kidding.